Hello, how are you? Glad you're here. I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this month of August 2021, we're talking about work-life harmony. I'm seeing I'm a little jiggly, but well, hopefully that'll work itself out. We're talking about work-life harmony. You might have heard quite often the term work-life balance, where people talk about, here's how I am at work and here's how I am out of work and the level of stress and how do I manage that. Well, I want to go deeper, like I said in my little chat here, go dig deeper and bigger, in a sense that I just want to go bigger and deeper. The more that we talk about things on this channel, the more that I realize that I don't want to talk about what everybody else is talking about. Like, what's the point of that? There's so many articles and blogs and videos on people talking about work-life balance. But let's go deeper. Like, who am I in my work life? Who am I in my life? Who am I across the board? And is that different from when I'm at work or when I'm at home? Am I different with the people I work with than the people that I am at home? And do I treat myself differently one way or the other? So these are really important questions. So Fred's here. Hi, Fred. Glad to see you here. Thank you. So part of it is, who am I? I mean, that's the biggest part of the question is, who am I? And when I'm at work, am I able to be the fullest expression of myself in my work? Or do I have to dumb myself down? Or do I have to diminish my sense of value? Or am I respected and trusted as the person I am? Do I allow myself to be respected and trusted? And is that the same as at home? Maybe at work, I'm respected and trusted and given responsibilities that make me feel good about myself. But when I go home, something happens and I'm not seen in the same light. I experience myself differently. And so what shows up at home is different. Aisha's here. Hi, Aisha. Glad you're here. So, so this is what we're talking about. And because it's not just about here's how I perform at work, and here's the responsibilities at work, and here's what I accomplish at work, and here's what I'm attached to about my identity at work, and here's what I'm attached to or what I am or who I am outside of work. It's like, what's the larger intention of our work life and our home life? What's the larger intention, the deeper, truest intention? And Marge Frankie's here. Hi. So if you guys, Fred, Aisha, and Marge, if you guys can answer that question right now, that would be great. I know, Fred, that you're retired, and Marge, you're semi-retired, and Aisha, you're just beginning and blossoming in your life, in your career. But how does that work for you? How do you engage as you in this this path of career, and is it the same as how you pursue your personal life, your personal connections, your relationship to every part of your life, right? So we're talking about work-life balance and work-life harmony, but is this the same patterning, if you will, as your relationship with food, or your relationship with substances, or relationship with distractions and all? Who are you in this process? So if you've watched this before, my lives, you see that I'm challenged every week because I come up with an idea. Here's what we're doing this month, work-life harmony. Here's what I'm going to talk about today, which is who I am, or how I identify myself as a professional and or in my personal life. And then I go, why did I decide that? Like, what's the point? Like, I don't even know what to talk about. This is true for every video I do. It's like, I don't know. I start with, I go with that. It's like, I don't know. And it's very frustrating and it's very challenging. And I'm telling you this for a reason. Okay. Uh, but because the reason, I'll tell you the reason, and see if I can go back to this. The reason is that I have a way of being me. I have a way of doing what I do in my career and with my clients. I have a way of being that is just the essential me. And so these YouTube lives are an opportunity for me to see, this is how I do me. This is who I am now. And this is who I am when I'm with my clients or with my friends, with my family more and more. This is who I am, much more spontaneous, much more authentic, much more transparent. I have tried in these YouTube lives I have my notes over here. I used to say it's hard. I think it's hard to keep the balance. It is hard to keep the balance, but I think it can be easier when we get a sense of intention. What's the intention of our work? What's the intention of our life? What's our intention of our work in our life? When we get clearer about our intentions, I think it makes it easier to keep that harmony or bring about that harmony. So when I go, okay, here's what I'm going to talk about, who I am. Here's my identity as a professional. Here's my identity in my human life. And I go, wait, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I have pages of notes. And if I were to do it like some people, I would create a teleprompt and then I would just talk from the teleprompt. That doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me to have my notes here and then just read through the notes and say, here's the next talking point. Doesn't work for me. So what works for me is I do my preparation. I look at my notes. I listen to myself. That's the most important thing, is I listen for what it is that wants to be said. I listen for what comes through me. And that sounds perhaps a little woo-woo. I'm sorry if there's a disconnect. The video is a little slow. But I notice what wants to come through. I know there's something bigger than just here's how to manage stress. Here's how to manage your time. Here's how to manage relationships. It's much more than that. And so when I can listen to that, there's much more than that, then I can speak to it a little bit better, but it's still kind of scary because I'm talking to you, like I said, spontaneously, authentically, and I have no idea what's going to come through. And it's not quite a download. I'm not just channeling stuff, but I'm in alignment with, I hope I'm in alignment with, that's the intention, is being in alignment with my intuitive self, which for me, my intuitive self is is that self that is, has the wisdom and the inner knowing and that connection with something greater than me that's always informing me. Now, I say this to you because if you're listening to this or you're watching this, I suspect that you have questions about who you are in your relationship with your work, in your career, in relation to your partners, perhaps, or your family, in relation to life. And we have a sense of that we're supposed to be within these constructs. Here's who I am in my professional life. Here's who I am in my home life. Here's who I am with my brothers and sisters and parents. Here's who I am when I'm alone. And what I want for you, and the intention of most of these videos, is to say, who are you across the board? Who are you across the board? So that who you are, your essential self, is present in your work life, in your home life, in your life with yourself. David White, the poet, did a piece called The Three Marriages. It's a book, and it's also a great audio book. That's how I heard him do this. And it really talks about the importance of in a sense, being in harmony with ourselves, regardless of whether we're in relation to our work, in relation to our partners and family, or relationship to ourselves. But the question is, who am I? I can look at, so when I look in my past, David's here. Good day, David. Glad you're here. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you. When I look at my relationships, and quite often, so my first marriage, I was 20, and I was married till I was 26 with that particular fellow. And I was pretty grumpy. Who he was with his employees. He was nice, he was kind, he was respectful, he was present, he was attending to them. And then he'd come home and he was in his newspaper, he was on the sports channel, he was not connected to me. And I was kind of pissed off about that because that's not what I wanted in a husband. And then when I look at my second husband, he was quite the same when he was with his clients and his work that he was doing. He was this extraordinarily connected and engaged person, so loving and so amazing. That's what made me fall in love with him. And then he'd come home and he would be busy doing other things. He was not connected to me. So here's these two people who were, in a sense, very similar, that when they're at work, they're more engaged with those people. But when they weren't in work, now there's something else. What's the disconnect? Are any of you familiar with that for yourselves? I'm curious. So if you are, let me know. I mean, it's a great conversation, is what has us be present in our work, but disconnected at our home life? Or perhaps we're very engaged in our home life, but disconnected here. What is that? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. So at the same time, I know that my partners or my family, all people are always, and we've talked about this before, David, you've shared about this, and in that these people that I was married to, or my sisters and brothers, they all have, they are all a reflection of me. So I can't point the fingers and say, look at who you were over there, and I'm the perfect little person here. You know, when I was with my children, I was like this, very immersed and constantly present with them. With my partners, I was trying to get something from them. And so who wants to be around that, really? I was cranky. I was frustrated. I was felt lonely. I didn't have the capacity to bring these people into a way that wanted to connect with me. And so who I was in those relationships was not great. So, and then a number of years ago, that was in my 20s and my 30s, but a couple of years ago, I was looking at who I was with my clients and realized the degree to which I got my personal fulfillment and professional fulfillment from my clients. And I thought, that's not such a good thing, in a sense that because my relationships outside of work were not that fulfilling, I was leaning in on my clients to bring about a level of conversation that it was still professional. I didn't go outside the boundaries in terms of it not being professional. It was professional, but I was getting my personal needs met that way. And it's like, wait, that's nice, but it's not okay. In a sense, I have to have a life, right? I have to have a life. And so many people really lean on their work and their careers to be their life. You know, a lot of people in the Silicon Valleys, or people who work for the big companies like Google or Apple, they create, all kinds of life fulfilling things within the business, like their laundry or meditation centers or food courts, where everything is there within the present, within the structure of the corporation. So people don't have to have a real life, in a sense. It's fascinating. But where do we get our juice? Where do we get the juice of who we are and what we want in our life. So again, that's a question that I have for you guys is who are you? And in a sense, who are you that chooses a career, the career that you choose? And some of that is just a matter of, well, I just started working for my dad because that was the thing to do, or I was out of work and this was the first job that came, that I could get that would pay the bills. There's those kinds of beginnings, but there's still a choice making that we're making that has something to do with who we are in the alignment of us. And when we know that, we can begin to see how we are creating harmony in our life, in a sense that if I, and a few years ago, 4 years ago now, my financial situation wasn't that great. And somebody offered me a part-time job at the Art Center here as the manager of the ticket office, which was it was great. And it was brought me into harmony financially because I could keep my head above water, but it also was in harmony in a sense that I was connecting and engaging with people in the community. So there was a lovely harmony that was happening for me. And then at the point where I was having enough clients and work, then I let that go because the harmony of being in my private practice was greater. So this is another question for you is, where do you find that harmony? And how in your work life do you distinguish when you're in that harmony, when you're not in that harmony? Like, how do you know? And do you pay attention to that? So I have a lot of questions. And this is my job as a coach, is to ask those kinds of questions. And again, I think that if you visit my channel as you are today, and you're connected to what I'm about, then I'm going to ask you questions so that you can begin to question for yourself, what is that I'm wanting? What is that harmony with my work or my life? How David, I know that in Australia, you live in a very, very beautiful place. And that place provides a sense of harmony for you, I suspect. And where what you consider to be a beautiful place might be like a terrible, horrible place for somebody else. But my sense is that it is a place of beauty, and it does give you a sense of harmony and connection. That's really important to you. I live on Orcas Island. That's a place that brings me harmony. And I know that's true for Marge and Fred as well, because they're here on Orcas. Aisha, I'm not sure how it is for you in Houston, in terms of that place of balancing that sense of harmony for yourself. So any questions, any thoughts about that as we're here together? One of the things that I mentioned this already, but when I'm looking at work, so my career as, first of all, as a therapist, and then my career as a spiritual guide, and then my career as a transformational coach, writer, because writing is a career, but it's part of what I am. And so there you go, right? Writing is part of what I am. It's part of how I express myself in the world. And that's what our career is. It's our expression of ourselves in the world. And the way that we, in a sense, I write books and I'm doing these videos. I'm doing things that don't necessarily provide me with financial remunerations, but there's something in the service, in the exchange. There's an exchange that is just important in my doing this. There's an exchange in a sense that my doing what I do, whether it's writing or these videos or the podcasts I've done, Aging Like a Guru and Spiritual Immersion, in the engagement with this process, there is an inherent value that I receive. And that's an important part of work. Our career is that there is an inherent value that we are receiving in doing our work. And that can be challenging for people. If you're in a job that doesn't provide that inherent value, how can you shift shift your mindset or shift something so that there is an inherent value? I spoke to you before, either last week or the week before, about a client of mine, and I'll call him Kevin. And Kevin wanted to be, and still may be, a motivational speaker, but he was working in a large company in Silicon Valley, and he wasn't receiving and experiencing that inherent value by being there. He had to pretend, he had to promote himself in ways that felt unnatural and not authentic. And he needed to stay in that place, he believed, because of the financial responsibilities for his family. And so he had to shift in that question. He's like, I'm miserable here because I don't get to be my fullest self. I don't get to be this expression that makes me feel fulfilled, that is in harmony with myself. And so we talked about that, like, how could he shift the way he's seeing this so that there is inherent value enough that he can feel more harmony, maybe not complete fulfillment of his human spirit, but enough to get him through until he's ready to leave that job. And so when we were able to say the inherent value of him being there was his responsibility for the financial situation of his family, he was taking care of that. So the inherent value was he was fulfilling his role as that person. And that gave him enough sense of self and value that he could continue to do what he did for the next almost year. And then he ended up leaving and moving out of the country with his family. So it's those questions that we have for ourselves of, does what I'm doing, is my work here really fulfilling that sense of that inherent value that comes? David, thank you. Yes, when many men retire from their employment, there is a huge gap that comes into their life. I've seen men go downhill very quickly when they retire. They've lost a huge part of their life. Yes, that's true for so many people, because they have relied on their work to be where they get fulfillment. They haven't built that sense of self into the rest of their life, into their relationship with their partners or family or children or community. So it's a really good place. And so in a sense, that's why I'm not focusing specifically on work-life balance this month, but work-life harmony, so that we are aware of, well, what is it that I'm creating through my work? What's important for me through that particular portal? What's the portal of relationship, of marriage or parenthood? Those are all portals for it can be the portal for validation, or it can be the portal for the inherent value, the inherent expression of self. When I was a mom of young kids, that's where I was really shining. That's where I could really be me. I wasn't good at relating to my husband. I hadn't developed the tools through my family. My family was highly dysfunctional. I didn't develop the tools there to be effective as a partner. And I didn't marry somebody that was a friend, that we had relationship capabilities. That's not who I married. And therefore it didn't work, right? But that wasn't the portal that worked for me. I could feel my most essential self when I was with my children as a mom. And over years, I've developed the capacity to be a friend with people and be effective as in my career. Before, they were just vehicles for getting my needs met, whether that's my need for my egoic, or all my egoic needs, or my financial needs. For a while, and I wrote about this, about my clients being a cash cow. My clients that's how I got my money, was through my clients. And when I looked at that, I went, wow, most of us do that, who are working specifically in the service industry of people. It's like people are my cash cows. But I had to shift that. And I was able to do that over time. That's a major source of my income, but I don't look at myself that way. I don't look at them that way. How I have shifted this is to see that I have to look at this because it's really important that I want to get this right. What's mine to do? So it might feel like I'm jumping to something else, but what's mine to do? What's mine to do is be here now with you, in essence, having a conversation. This is just conversational. If I was teaching, I would look at my notes and I would make talking points and I would do a monitor thing that I'm supposed to say everything right. This is a conversation that I'm having with you. And that's what's mine to do. And I forget why I'm saying that. Sometimes that happens. So what I think we're trying to do is create in our work. I know I was back to cash cow. What's mine to do is to do this. What's mine to do is to do the work that I do with my clients and my trainees, and my students. What's mine to do is sometimes share information through podcasts or interviews, being interviewed by other people. That's what's mine to do. And when I'm in alignment with what's mine to do, it feels delightful. It feels I'm in harmony. That's pretty much the word of the day. I feel in alignment with myself. I feel like I'm in attunement with whatever it is that's here with me. And that's how I like to operate. And that's how I operate best, in this conversational way that's mine to do as an expression of me. So when I was able to shift that from I need my clients to give me money for doing what I do, it took them off the hot seat, and it took the fear out of the relationship. It took I need them to stay around so that I make sure that I can pay my mortgage. It took all of that out to say, no, that's not what their job is. Their job is to be who they are, doing what they're doing. My job is to do this and be the expression of my fullest self in relation to them, in relationship to you, in relation to my writing, in relation to whatever it is. And in that, the money comes. And it's a different orientation than our consensus view of reality. But I've had to develop that for myself. I've had to develop that perspective over time, because the other one was based on fear, and it was based on using people. It was not based on the alignment of my highest truth, my highest knowing. So again, I look forward to hearing questions or thoughts that you guys might have about what I'm saying, because it's different. It's like, how do we be in harmony with ourselves when we're at work? If our work perhaps is not in alignment with our values or our sense of culture, our sense of truth for ourselves, and these can be dilemmas. I've written a couple of books about this. I just had them right here. Okay. Yeah. So these are 2 books I wrote. You might want to check them out. This one is called Dilemmas of Being in Business. And this one is called The ABCs of Business, the ABCs of Spirituality in Business. And this is called The Dilemmas of Being in Business. I wrote them when I was a little younger, as you can see. And they talk about the dilemmas of like, how do we be in alignment with our highest truths and our highest selves in a culture that does not necessarily work based on trust or safety or respect or honoring humanness, honoring dignity, honoring truth. How do we do that? Any thoughts about that? That's a big question. So my job is to continue to stretch my sense of truth to include these bigger questions and really listen for the truth in myself, in my inner truth, my inner guru, allowing it to speak, even if that speaking is frightens me. I watched a movie last night called Saint Ralph. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's this wonderful, beautiful movie about, and it's a fictional movie about this 14-year-old boy who in ninth grade, and his mother has cancer and she goes into this coma, and he decides that he goes to a Catholic boys' school. He decides that he needs a miracle and he's going to make that miracle happen. And so what he does is he decides, with the help of God that comes to him in the form of what looks like Santa Claus. It's a very cute movie, but very wonderful too. He decides he's going to run this marathon and he's going to win this Boston Marathon in 1954 so that he can create this miracle and save his mom's life. So what he's doing is, number one, he wants to save his mom's life. That's his work. That's what he decides. That's his work. He's going to create the miracle to save his mom's life. That's his work. And the second part of that, though, is he wants, in essence, he doesn't want his mom to die. He says, I don't want to be an orphan. I don't want to be an orphan. I'm going to do this miracle. In essence, I don't want my mother to die and I don't want to be an orphan. So the part of him that is wanting to avoid being an orphan is trying to avoid some very deep sense of loss that's highly likely if his mother dies. So he runs the marathon. He actually runs the marathon and he comes in second. Sorry to spoil, but it's worth seeing because it's not about that. He comes in second and he crosses the finish line and he is in such excruciating defeat. He's so defeated, and he experiences and expresses this sense of such inner loss of everything. It's like an annihilation that is part, I think, of every single one of us. That place of absurd, horrific loss of self. And so I believe that every single one of us, including me, when he lost and he felt that, like, oh my God, my mother will not survive. I will not survive. This is just the worst of the worst of the worst. I just cried. I sobbed because I could feel that sense of defeatedness. It's not the right word. It's not even, doesn't capture that sense of loss. I think people who are living with terminal illnesses and are in that, they've been battling and then they go, hey, it's over. At that moment that you go, the battle is over. There's something that happens within us. And I think we constantly are trying to keep that from happening. But eventually every single one of us has to be in that moment of utter annihilation of our dream that we're going to survive and be immortal or whatever that is. All of us have to face that. So that's why that when I mentioned earlier in my comments, my chat, that we're going big and we're going deep, because this is what every single one of us, I think, are being with and attempting to create through our job is, hey, I am this big wahoo, I'm this big hooray, I'm this big something or other that's going to make a difference in the world. Or we do that through our partnerships, like, ooh, I'm really special. I want my partner to treat me like I'm special. And if he doesn't, that's about him. I'm special. That kind of egoic stuff. But when we get clearer about who am I in here? What am I really afraid of inside? And we may not see it as a fear. We might just see it as something else. But that fear of being a nothing, a no thing, is very frightening. And so we claw and we hang on to whatever we can so we don't actually fall into the abyssness of this element of human existence. It's an element, an aspect of human existence that none of us can truly avoid forever. It's just a matter of when. And that's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing, because once we've experienced it, that moment, then we can get on with our life knowing that we've done it. We've gone into the abyss. It can't get any worse than that. And 99% of the time, it can't get any worse than that. So I'm talking a lot still in the realm of creating harmony. It's like we're trying to avoid what St. Ralph, the movie, what Ralph was trying to avoid and inevitably expressed was that horrendous defeat of being anything but this young boy who's 14 and can't save his mom's life. But in that, he was able to see, and we're able to see, what amazing miracles he created because he did what he did. So coming back to this is like the career. How do we see our career as an expression of our essential nature versus it being something that we get something from as a fear-based vehicle? If we go into our careers afraid that we will be something less than if we're not that. So for instance, a lot of people go into being physicians or lawyers because they're afraid if they don't have that level of prestige, or a businessman, stockbrokers, those sort of more high prestigious jobs. If I'm not that, I'm nothing. Or my father's business, is highly prestigious. And if I'm not one of those, then I'm nothing. And if we're looking at, we want our work to be a reflection that I'm nothing, then we're going to be constantly not in harmony with our work, because we're constantly challenged to make sure that we are seen and experienced within that level of prestige, as opposed to going, it doesn't matter. I can clean toilets and that works for me. I don't mind, right? Because there isn't the attachment to that, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is, when we are listening for our highest knowing, what's ours to do, and we live in alignment with that, I became a therapist. It was just a matter of like, of course. And then that the unfolding of that brings me to this moment of sharing this with you. It's a matter of just that this is what's mine to do. When I try to do something else that's not mine to do, it feels rigid, or it feels constraining, feels limiting. If I don't really talk to people or listen to how other people do coaching or do spiritual work or do YouTube videos. I looked at that for a while, but it's like, that's their way. I have to listen to my way. And I want you to be aware of those conversations within you that is available, but maybe you're not. Maybe it's still too scary. And if it's too scary, that's okay. But you're aware of it. A friend of mine, Jimmy Halverson, he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he's an amazing chef. And he used to be really into raw foods. And so he could do all kinds of amazing thing with food. And when I would talk to Jimmy over 20 years, he would say, he would get clearer about the fact that, yeah, you know what I really want to do is work with women in hairstyling. That's what I really want to do. And when he first said this, it was like, really? That just seemed so weird, so out of the box of who Jimmy was. And it was like, really, you want to do that? And it was like, wow, that's. And then it was like, it was a serious calling. And he goes, but yeah, don't know if I can make money. I've got he's colorblind, so I don't know if that's going to work. And he kept putting it off. But the calling to work in styling and cutting and all of that never went away. And so finally he went through school and is now doing it full time. So it's like we can hear these voices, or we can hear the calling, or we can have the sensations and never follow them. That's what so many people do. Or we can begin to listen and go, that's mine. That's my work. That's it. And it's quite a lovely revelation when we can do that. The next piece is like, yeah, but I can't make that happen. Just like Jimmy, I can't make that happen. Don't have the money. Don't know, But if you listen and you attend to it, and have the intention, like, I really want to do that, then in alignment comes all these other supports that you weren't expecting. It's happened to me over and over and over again. David says, become adaptable to change and go forward with excitement with new challenges. It keeps you alive. Yes. So many of us are still so committed to the belief that our consensus view of reality is reality. And when we do that, we lose flexibility and adaptability. We're not curious. We are like, nope, that doesn't work. And it's like, nope, that doesn't work. And it's like, how do you know it doesn't work? What do you really know about this, whatever that is? And the fluidity and the flexibility, I think that keeps us young and keeps us alive and vibrant when we go, I'm curious about that, rather than, oh, that's really stupid, or that doesn't work, or that's just made up. So it's very challenging. And I walk the line, not walk the line, but I'm my attempt in doing these, my intention, I should say, in doing these YouTube videos, these lives, is to support and empower people to incrementally look at what they really truly know or believe in their heart, and then look at what consensus reality they're bumping up against and going, I'm told not to think this way. I'm told not to believe in woo-woo. I'm told that that's really stupid. But really, is it stupid? And can I be curious beyond what I've been taught? Can I be curious beyond my fear? I'm afraid that if I be curious about that, something will happen and I won't know how to deal with it. That's what most of us are afraid of. But that how we can, like you say, David, become adaptable and flexible, and in a sense, not even to change, and that's so important in this work for me, in this incremental undoing. It's like when we say, quite often people or teachers or spiritual teachers say, become adaptable to change. It's like, I have no idea how to do that. No idea. It's too big. Even me, it's overwhelming to say be adaptable to change. But if I go, okay, how do I feel in my work? It's like, ooh, crunchy. I would say right now, the biggest place I'm out of harmony in my life would be with food. I would say that's the truth. Okay. When food comes up, because I don't know how to do what I want to do, which is what you're talking about, David, which is be more fluid, more adaptable, more curious of outside the box of meat and potatoes. I don't know how to do it. Right. So I go, more meat and potatoes, please. And but if I see that and go, okay, what I want is harmony, right? Then I'm willing to be curious. If I want harmony in my life, if I want harmony in my relationships, I can poo-poo people as much as anybody else. You're full of yourself. You're just, you like being that way or whatever. And I can judge people as good as anybody. But if I want to really be in harmony within myself, in relation to my friends, in relation to my family, in relation to life itself, then I want to be more curious about that, more adaptable. What I mean by that, because that's where that's a big word. If I begin to say, I want to be more curious, as opposed to I want to change. But if I look at things from a place of, if I'm more curious about, let's say, a vegetarian lifestyle or more vegetables, then in that curiosity, and if I'm committed enough, then I'm going to start doing a little more research. I'll be more curious in conversations. Oh, you're vegetarian. Tell me what you eat. Tell me how you do that, how you do vegetarian. And that's, it's like, tell me how you do careers. How do you do life? And when we can ask that question, people will actually give you answers. And how you do life is a pretty big question, but you can ask people, here's how I do life. I am scared. I am resistant. I withhold, and I'm in overwhelm all the time. That's how some people will say, here's how I do life, right? So David says, Alicia's here. Hi, Alicia. Glad you're here. So yeah, David, it keeps you alive and vibrant to be curious as opposed to constrained. Much like you're saying, when people, especially men, retire from their positions, they've been so contained in the identity of who they were at work, they have no sense of self and no sense of how to relate outside that work bubble, because in some ways they're invulnerable. And that's one of the things that work does for us, I believe, is we're in a container where we're invulnerable. I know in my conversations with my clients, it's a relationship. What I was taught when I was training to be a therapist, it's like, this is a pseudo intimacy relationship, pseudo intimacy. In a sense, I am not the intimate. I'm not the one that's being vulnerable. It's only my client that's sharing and is being vulnerable. So I can have these deep, interesting, wonderful conversations and always remain invulnerable. And that's what our careers give us, is that that bubble of invulnerability. But when we're in real relationships, it's like, it's scary. David says, how's the horse riding going? That's an exciting, yes. That's a place that's vulnerable for me. That's a place of intimacy and vulnerability for me. And I'll talk about that in a second, because I want to finish just this what we were saying before about work being this place of invulnerability. But when we go into relationships with real people, there's vulnerability, and we don't know how to do that. And we create these walls, like I said, my first husband would always be in the newspaper or watching sports. There was no place for a relationship there. And I was in my stuff. So I didn't have any, even though I said I wanted intimacy, I didn't choose the guy to be intimate with. I chose this, where there was this invulnerability element. So we do this all over the place, where we want what we want, but we want to stay invulnerable at the same time. And that invulnerability doesn't bring about harmony. It really doesn't. So, David, how's the writing going? I am about 2 weeks away. I've got 2 more lessons with Kate Wood, who I've been working with here on the island. It has been really fascinating, because I would say 85% of the time that I'm there, 2-hour class, I'm with the horse on the ground, relating to the horse as a being, and not as this horse I'm going to get on and I'm going to tell it what to do and it's going to do what I want it to do. It's the same dynamics of what is it that creates harmony in this relationship between me and this animal. And that's what this work is about for me, it turns out. I didn't know that. But, my intention in going horseback riding in the Cascade Mountains was I wanted this experience, this whole being experience of immersing myself in relation to this animal, this horse, with the beauty of the mountains. Maybe I'll come and horse ride in Australia where you live, David. That would be very cool, I think. But right now, this is my first immersion process in this kind of adventure. We'll see how it goes. And if it goes well, I would like to do it some other places, maybe Mongolia. I think I would love to do it in Mongolia. I know I would love to do it in Mongolia, but other places as well. But it's a place where I am choosing to be vulnerable, and not vulnerable to danger, but because I have experience. The group I'm going with and the outfitter that I'm going with, they have the experience. Their horses are trained to do this work, so it's not like I'm vulnerable in that I'm vulnerable to danger. There is that possibility, but this is more about who I am and learning how to be in harmony with nature and with this horse. This particular horse this time. And that's what I'm learning. And that's what's exciting. I go and I walk this horse. If you sat there and watched this training program for 2 hours, you'd be completely bored because you're watching me walk around the ring with this horse. But what's happening between me and the horse is very different and very unique. So I'm bringing that into alignment of this conversation. Then it's I'll let that go to this. It's really looking at how am I in harmony with my own life and the work that I'm doing. A lot of what I'm learning with the horse is what I do with my clients and what I do with my trainees. It's the same work, but I'm now on the other side. I'm learning how to do this in relation to a horse. So it's still me learning who I am and not being, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to control this horse, but it's being in relationship in a way that honors and is a mutual relationship. This is not just a beast of burden anymore in terms of how so much horsemanship has changed in relating to this horse with dignity and respect and honor. It's extraordinary. David says, trying new things and new relationship experiences relevant to what you've been saying, change and relationships. Thank you, David. Yeah. It's who are you in this relationship with your work, and really asking yourself that question. Who am I in this relationship with my work? And that work might be you're a wife and a mother. Your work might be that you're retired and you've got a life to be in. Who are you in there? And how is it that you want to move forward? How do you want to be? It's like, how do you want to move forward? That's even the wrong question. It's how do you want to be here now? And how do you want to be here now? And how do you want to be here now? And how we're being here now is either from a place of fear and resistant and lockdown and an attitude of, well, they have to do it different, or they're the wrong guys, or whatever that attitude is, to shifting that to what I want is harmony in my life. What I want is a sense of this quality expression of me. But when we're locked down into judgments and opinionatedness or whatever, worry or guilt or anger, or I'm alone, whatever that is, that lockdownness doesn't give us the ability, like you're saying, David, is to become adaptable, to become curious. When I'm training my coaches, it's one of the number one two things that are top top qualities for a good coach or therapist is, number one, the degree to which you can be present with somebody in the moment. And number two is the degree to which you can be curious about who they are and how they be. Those are two most things. And both of those have to do with being in this present moment. Those are the three: being present in the moment, being present, and being curious. And that, because that curiosity gives you a sense of engagement in life, the life that's in front of you, or the life that you're living, or the life that you have lived, but that it stays right here in this present moment. So yeah, thank you, David, for for seeing that this is all relevant, that I'm not just kind of going off and spinning in different directions, but I'm actually right here with you guys and it's making sense. So one of the things I learned today, thank you, David, again for bringing that up, in my horse training is before I left to go there, I was reading Oneness, the book that I was reading, and it talked about two things. It said, it's really important to know what your purest intent is in life. What's your purest intent? And if you're not clear about your purest intent, then your intentions might be all over the place. My intention is to look prestigious and be prestigious. My intention is to get a lot of money. It's these little things. It's my intention is to stay safe and comfortable, and my intention is to avoid fearful experiences. Well, all those intentions, we can go, well, what's the purest intention there? And so that was number one. I was like, what's your purest intention? And I keep asking myself that, like, why am I doing this horse trip? Part of me doesn't know, because it doesn't make sense. But my purest intention is to be in alignment with this thing, that this bigger me that says, I want to have this immersion process, to be immersed in beauty and the oneness of all that is. That's the purest intention. Number two thing that I took away from this morning was mixed feelings, mixed intentions will give you mixed results. So if you're trying to get something from your job, but it's not in alignment with your highest truth, your highest self, it isn't going to happen. And again, that was the book, The Dilemmas of Being in Business. That was every single person I spoke with had that dilemma. They're trying to get something, and it wasn't in alignment with their highest knowing and their highest truth. So when I went to horse riding, horse lessons, horsemanship. And I said this to Kate, it's like, I'm reading about this, it's purest intention. And she goes, yeah, these are the three words that are really important in horsemanship as well, which was intention, attention, no tension. Whoops. No tension. So in a sense, when we are in our highest intention and we bring our attention to that, there is no tension. There's only harmony. And that was so cool for her to say. And then that was for me what I continue to practice throughout the lesson with the horse, is watching my tension, watching his tension. I went out on the trail today, which was the first time, and he got panicky because it was like, yeah, I don't know what that is. And it's like, so we bring it back to attention and the intention to calm, and he calmed down, and we were in that place of no tension again. So those are three words I leave you with is if you want to, you can ask yourself all these questions. You can look at my book, Self-Empowerment 101. That's a really good book. Has lots and lots of coaching questions in it that you can ask yourself and really work through for yourself. But right now, if it's like, what is that level of harmony? How often are you willingly able to bring that to yourself? And what is the highest intention for yourself? In 99%, no matter if you're trying to get prestige or you're trying to get money or fame, you're trying to get that so that you will have a sense of harmony and connection with yourself. We're just trying to get it through different vehicles, and that's okay. But be clear about that, and be clear about it in terms of seeing if you can undo the fears that limit the abilities, the adaptability, so that those fears, because a lot of times the fear won't let us be adaptable and curious. it was a big deal for me to get curious and actually be curious with my clients, because they're like, oh, I can't ask that question. Right? It's like, no, you got to ask those questions. So ask those questions and answer them for yourself, and be curious. Thank you for being here today and staying here today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. All right. Big hugs, you guys. Thanks for your conversations and your chats with me. All right. Bye for now.